So this is part 5 of my Troubleshoot series, and today we take a look at RAM issues, whether RAM is responsible for your computer with no display, not turning on or not booting up. Coming up, roll the intro. Hey team tags and welcome, this is Ash from My Tech, helping you go from newbie to techie. If you've stumbled on this video, this is part 5 of my Troubleshoot series. Check the cards above or the description below. I've done an introduction and previous 4 parts to explain how a computer works, and we're showing 10 different components of any computer. And if you can identify what symptoms is being shown, you can easily go to that part and easily swap it and replace it for a quick fix. So make sure you go and check out those videos and then come back here unless you're really tech savvy. Okay, so moving on, today we're going to deal with RAM issues. RAM, or random access memory, or memory as it's simply known, is one of those components without any moving part, which means it's actually quite long lasting. Faults do occur on RAM, but they are more rare and they are a lot more easy to troubleshoot and repair, sort of. Because there's not much repair you can do apart from, if it's a bad RAM or it's faulty, you're gonna have to replace it. That's the actual easiest thing to do. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that some people, what they've done, if they've had a bad RAM, they've used some sort of alcohol rub and like an eraser to be able to just kind of clean it, and it did work. That's one fix you could try if you really want to. Okay, so bear that in mind. All right, let's move on. There are 2 stages for RAM failure. One, we're talking about that the RAM is actually preventing your BIOS to complete the post, so it will not be booting up. And the other one is it does allow you to boot up, but then while you're using your Windows application, or it could be Linux or Mac, whatever, there are a lot of bizarre behaviors your computer will display, like Windows freezing up, you can get blue screen of death, you can have corrupted files, you can have weird colors on your screen, and there's all sorts of problems. In fact, RAM problems cause so many different symptoms. It's difficult to know for sure that when you look at something, oh, that's definitely RAM issue, because many of these issues can also be caused by your hard disk, like bad sectors, or even a bad power supply, or a dying motherboard. There's a lot of issues. However, RAM replacement is one of the easiest and quickest and fastest and probably cheapest way to fix many problems of your computer, both before it posts and after it's posted and booted up onto Windows. And because many people, they know where the RAM is and they can easily access it, or can find some tutorials, and then you can easily just swap out the RAMs without even knowing the exact cause of your problem. Just trying to swap RAMs with a good known working RAM will usually fix a lot of problems, but it's like, again, shooting blind, and we've talked about this before. I'm going to refer you to this video. This was a laptop repair I did on a laptop which was displaying some form of life. There was some LED lights, caps locks was flashing, but it wasn't booting up, and it turned out it was a problem with the RAM slot, I believe, and what I did was swapping the RAM into different RAM slot, and that fixed the problem. So check it out, the cards above or the link below. If you are going to test for RAM, if you suspect your RAM is a problem, I don't advise you to buy new RAM just to test things out. You will have people in your friends and your family who have the same system, and what I would advise, just borrow from them, because again it's fairly easy to just take RAM out, as long as you're a little bit careful. Make sure you're discharging your static electricity from your body and from the device you're taking from, then it should not be a problem. Just swap out the RAMs. Do bear in mind there are 4 generations of RAM. We are currently on DDR4, and you will have all the way from DDR, DDR2, DDR3 and DDR4. So you just need to make sure which RAM version you're using, and the motherboard or your system or the vendor that you sold from will be able to tell you that. Just a quick Google search. In today's case, we've got a DDR2 platform. This is an Intel platform. Now, there was some issues between Intel and AMD compatibility on DDR2 platforms, maybe even DDR. I'm not aware whether this is still happening on DDR4. I haven't seen it on DDR3. I'm not well versed on whether there's still an issue. Some AMD RAMs would not work on Intel platforms, something like that, but they're not very common. If you're buying all the RAMs, just make sure they are the right RAMs that you're buying. I don't think it's a problem anymore. And the actual speed or the size of the RAM will not really matter if you're just doing it for testing. As long as it's the same platform, you should work. Okay, like in the laptop video that I showed, there are two physical problems with RAM. It could be the RAM itself, or it could be the RAM slots in which you plug in the RAM, and you have to test for each. It's a lot easier to test for the RAM than the RAM slots, and we're going to come to that. But today's test, we are mainly talking about the RAM being responsible for your laptop or desktop not booting up, not posting, and no display on the screen. We're not talking about finding for RAM failures, what happens after you boot up onto your system. For that, there are plenty and plenty of software you can use. One that comes to mind, I think, is Mem86 Plus. It is a really reliable and trustworthy application you can use. I'll put a link below if you want to download it and if you have some issues with your RAM. But it's not much help if you can't actually get into your system, if you've got bad RAM, and a lot of you may have this problem. So we will tackle these problems when we look at a different series after we manage to actually get onto our screen logging. So let's go back to my little system here. It's still the same one. I've not connected a hard drive still. We're not looking at hard drive problems. We just want to know if it's going to post. Also, I do have an issue about the clock on there, the CMOS battery, a bit of an issue, so don't worry about that part. As long as it posts, we're going to look for the beep. So let's see what happens when a complete working system is posting and beeps. So let's put it on. And we've got fan spinning on the CPU cooler and the PSU, and beep, one beep, display on the screen, and it's doing its thing, and there you go. It's telling me CMOS checksum, but that's the battery. Don't worry about that. Right, so we know it's posting, and we know that if I had a hard drive with an operating system, I could boot onto Windows fairly easily. Now, at this stage, I can also go into setup if I want to change anything. So this is good news, right? So this is a normal working system. Now, I'm going to leave this video uncut, and I'm going to remove the two RAM sticks on there, okay? And discharge my static electricity. Right, and let's see what happens if for some reason you had a system with no RAM sticks present. You know, it could be something you've bought, or you've swapped out parts, you forgot to put RAM, and it's, you know, it's covered, you haven't opened the panel, and you turn your system on. Let's do that right now. Let's see what kind of signs come up. Right, I'm going to off that. So with the RAM sticks away from the RAM slots, we've had one long beep and then two short beeps. Beep, beep, beep. And that will continue. I have not left it long enough to know if it carries on forever. It may stop after a certain number of series. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it will keep doing that. It's quite annoying. Now, this little thing, the speaker cable, remember I showed you in a previous video. I'll put a link for where I actually showed you. I think it was on the motherboard one. This little cable, no, not this one, sorry, my bad. This little cable, the speaker cable, is the most valuable piece of diagnostic tool you could have. And I would seriously advise you, if you don't have a speaker cable that goes onto your motherboard, buy one. They are so cheap. I've just bought myself a pack of 10 of them for, I think, under £2. And because obviously I need to test a few systems, and also many of my computers don't have them. It's really handy. Now, the reason is because the beep code, and we've talked about it before, the beep codes will tell you a lot of troubleshooting problems, including CPU problems, RAM problems, video card problems, and a whole load of other issues. And in that one, it signifies to me that there is no RAM present on the RAM slots. So there's no RAM in the system. Now, do bear in mind that the one long beep and two short beeps is specific for this motherboard with this type of BIOS chip. And you need to really check with your manufacturer of the board or the chip or the BIOS, whatever it is, for specific beep codes. One long beep and two short beeps may mean something else for your specific motherboard. Do bear that in mind, okay? Right, now I'm going to leave this video uncut again in one shot. Now I'm going to put the RAM sticks back, but this time I'm not going to click it in. I'm just going to place it on top, right, without pushing it down to firmly secure it. Just so visually if I was looking into a system, I would see there is RAM present, but it's not clicked in. Now let's see what happens this time when we turn the system on. Right, I won't stop it here. We've had the exact same beep codes, the one long beep and two short beeps, right? That because it's not plugged in properly, it's not been installed or inserted properly, and it's giving us the same code. And the way to prove that is we're going to just click it in and let's test this. Do bear in mind at this stage, sometimes your computer may not display or may not pause. You're going to have to do the discharging the static electricity, and go refer to the video, I think part 1, where I showed how to do that. All right, so let's turn it back on again. And hopefully it should work with one short beep. Display. Bingo. Right, and the CMOS crap, we don't care about that. Right, so that sorry, that is a very simple normal functioning test, and like you've seen when I took out the RAM, this was the issue. Two other issues that can happen on some motherboards, and again you have to refer to the manufacturer to know the exact composition, the exact slots you need to be placing in the RAMs. All the boards, I've worked on some boards where they had like one black and like 3 blue colors, and you needed to place specific RAM configuration according to the slot colors. So you have to check with the manufacturer. So that could be a reason why also the RAM may be causing your computer not booting up, because it was wrongly inserted. Although you may have the right RAM, but it's not inserted in the right slots. That I can't tell you what's the exact sequence. You're gonna have to check with the manufacturer details, okay? Now, and last on this one is, we've tested for the RAM. Our RAM slots are working, but how would you know if the RAM slot is not working? Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult to do that without doing the only thing you can, which is you're going to take your RAM sticks and place it into a known working motherboard of same compatibility, of course. And just to make sure, place it in a second one, just to eliminate every possibility. And if those RAM sticks work in those two systems, or at least that one system, then big chance is the RAM slots on your motherboard is faulty. And the bad news is that you're gonna have a hard time to find someone to repair that for you. The best thing, the cheapest one, the less hassle, if you're convinced it's the RAM slot that's causing the problem, is gonna be to replace the whole motherboard. But sometimes what can happen is only one of the slots or more than one of the slots can be faulty. In that case, do the logical thing and take out all the RAM and get a known working RAM and insert only one at a time, and every time rebooting and restarting to check whether there is any of the RAM slots causing issues. A bit long-winded, but that's the only thing you can do. But do also bear in mind that this is a troubleshoot that you can actually do from the very beginning of suspecting a problem with hardware. I have started with power and then motherboard, CPU, RAM, but RAM is one of the easiest thing to do. So you could actually start there, and like I said, there's a big chance it will resolve a lot of problems. However, if you have started just with that, just with the RAM, and still not giving you a conclusive result, and you haven't tested for the other things, I don't advise you to make a conclusion just yet. You still need to check for power supply, check motherboards, check CPU, I'm just saying it's not as straightforward as you think. Just because you can start with RAM and then it's not giving you a conclusive result, don't just assume, right, it must be the RAM slots. It may not be the RAM slot, maybe something else. It's just, it's a bit of logical thing, comes with experience and sometimes a bit of luck. Good, so we're done with the RAM on this board. This is a DDR2 system. I'm going to take you to a different system because I've actually got some faulty DDR3 RAMs, and I'm going to show you what happens when we insert faulty RAMs on a known working system. Okay, so this is a DDR3 system. It's actually a gaming PC, and it's going to feature in a future video because I bought this on quite cheap. It was used parts, but it's working quite well. So stay tuned for that video coming up. So we got it connected to an old monitor, mouse and keyboard, and inside we've got 2 sticks of DDR3 RAM, 4 GB each, that's 8 GB. Okay, and I'm going to turn it on to show you the boot sequence and the symptoms. Right, computer turns on. One beep. Check the monitor. Sorry about the fadeness or quite pale display because it's an old monitor. And it's booting into Windows, so we're fine. We heard the one beep, so that's not a problem. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to off the system. Okay, let's off this, and again I'm going to leave this in one shot uncut. Okay, so I've got with me 2 RAM sticks. Let me just grab that. Apologies. And these 2 RAM sticks come from a bad system. They are not working. I've already tested them. So I'm going to swap these sticks in with the existing working ones. Just take these off. So we're leaving this one cut to show some sort of, transparency and trust and more originality, I guess. And we're going to insert these ones in because we know they don't work. If I can do this in reasonable time. Right, okay, just show you. So I've got these green ones here and these are the ones I took out. All right, so uncut, one shot. Let's turn it on this time and see what happens. Okay, fan spinning, lights coming on. There is no beep sound. There is nothing on the display. Okay, and these green RAM sticks are still there. So that's definitely a problem. I'm going to stop this system from the back. I'm just going to take these RAM sticks out. This time I'm going to leave them out. So one there. And the other one, right? Took them out. Let's check in there. There's no RAM sticks anymore. And now we're going to turn it on again. See what kind of beep codes we get. LED on. Heard that? Okay, this time we got a single long beep at intervals, and it might continue until I switch the system off, which is different to the other beep codes. This is why I told you that every beep code for the same symptoms will be different on different motherboards. Okay, now just to kind of test this whole theory, we're going to replace the good known working RAM stick into the system, and as a precaution, I'm going to discharge the static electricity before I plug it in, because you may have had a build up with all these different RAM changes. Plug it back in, turn it on, and we've got, so I've put the proper RAM sticks in there this time, and these are the faulty ones. Okay, right, so let's turn it on and cross our fingers. Is that a thing? Okay, fan spinning, LED lights, one beep, and we've got movement on the screen. There you have it. So I'm just gonna let that boot up, and I hope I've made my point with an actual real live application of RAM test. Okay, some final thoughts on the RAM troubleshooting thing. Now, it's very easy. It's probably one of the easiest things to troubleshoot and to replace, and it will fix many problems. I can actually recommend you to buy used RAM sticks in this case because of non-movable parts. For the most part, unless you have a dodgy seller or from a dodgy website, then if you go on Amazon or eBay and buy from a reputable seller or even any retailer of your choice online or otherwise, as long as you've got some sort of warranty or return period, you should be okay. I've bought many RAM sticks used and it's been fine, and sometimes it's quite cheap. You can actually take the risk. Would not advise this for motherboards or hard drives for the most part. Alright, so we're done with part 5 of the series. So next part is going to be part 6, and we're going to be tackling, I think, the graphics card and no display. So I want to know what you guys think of this type of series. Now I know it's far from being perfect, and I could improve the production value, a lot more practical applications, a lot more B-roll, even better filming techniques, better lighting, even better audio. However, you know, I'm trying to put some sort of order in this otherwise very chaotic platform, and us YouTube content creators, especially the how-to channels, are quite happy to oblige. But what I want to know is, do you enjoy this type of series? Could I make it better? I'm sure I can make it better, but I would need your feedback. I do want to complete the series, and after this I've got a lot more different themed series to tackle. Look behind me, see these desktops? All of these have been with me for probably over 2 years, and most of them are older systems, couple of DDR3 systems, but they all need either a repair or an upgrade, and my main aim is to turn each and every one into a gaming desktop of some sort. You know, some of them obviously won't be the high-end gaming, but we'll work on that. And if I can't, I'll at least make it serviceable enough and workable enough so that someone can use for some sort of productivity tools. Do you guys want to see this series? It will be a long, detailed one, and each case will be different. And I will be able to showcase a lot of the troubleshoot that I've been showing you, probably a lot more, in actual real-life situations. So I think it might be worth it. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see this kind of troubleshoot series. Okay guys, you know what to do as usual. Leave me a comment or a question below, give me a like, a dislike, and share this video with those who you think might benefit from it. Also, please consider subscribing. It does help me a lot if I know we're building a community, and I do encourage you to engage in the comment section. Once again guys, thank you so much for watching. This was Ash from In My Tech, helping you go from newbie to techie. Until next time, peace out.